Hi guys, happy Sunday. It's Clarice and here we are for another session of how to paint loose flowers in watercolor. I'm just going to give this a few minutes to have everyone come in before I start. Set up myself already. Quick little chit chat banter before we begin. This was the florals that I did for this past week's tutorial. It's wildflowers and super colorful and pretty. I've gotten an amazing response, which kind of has me slightly floored. I didn't realize so many people loved so much color like I do. So I'll definitely put out more things like this since clearly it seems to be quite popular. But yeah, so keeping with the same trend that we did this past week, I think I'm going to do something loose like this for today. I have set up, let me just quickly make sure that I have my comments so I can see if you guys say anything or ask any questions. So I'm just going to make sure that is set up properly before we begin, and adjusting my camera to make sure you can see. Sorry, fell down while I was trying to do it. Oh, I have people writing to me. Hey Debbie, finally caught a live chat. Good afternoon. Hey, good afternoon, Debbie. And someone else is saying hi. I cannot read that. I think it's in Russian. But welcome. And I'm just going to adjust my table just to make sure that you have a proper view. Because sometimes when you go live, it gives you like a different view than when I normally record using the camera simply. So I just have to readjust every time this happens. Oh, from Texas. Oh, nice. Okay. I bet it's nice and hot there. It's pretty hot here today at least. So I'm loving the warm temperatures we are having. I wish we had longer summers, but I guess balance is nice. All right, so I think I am going to start. So for today, I did a very rough drawing or sketch on the sheet that I'm going to be using of leaves and buds around. And this is just so that I have a sense of where I'm going with during this tutorial. Normally I wouldn't do any kind of drawing just because, as most of you know who've been watching my videos quite often, that I kind of just let the creativity take me as I go along. And I decide as I kind of go along. But today I want to make sure that I show you guys something different, but also something fun and cute. So I'm integrating a lot more leaves and greenery today, and then we'll do the basics for the main attraction, which will be probably a rose or a peony or a dahlia. Let's see how or where I go with this once I actually begin. But yes, so I have some snap peas, and then I have a couple of just like really cute curly soft leaves going around. So as I paint, you guys will have a clearer picture of what these look like. So to begin, I'm going to tell you what brushes I am using. I am using my number 4 Silver Black Velvet, my number 1 in the mop brush, the number 8 in the Princeton Neptune, and I think this should be good for now, but as you all know, I also like to keep my number 8 in the Silver Black Velvet handy, just in case I need 2 8s for whatever reason, and you'll see how I kind of use that if you haven't been watching any of my previous videos. Okay, and for colors, I'm going to be using the brownish green that I have from my White Nights, St. Petersburg, and I believe it's called the Umber. It's just like a nice green brown. And for with this, I'm going to be using some yellow. So if I want the green to be a little more of a lighter, brighter green, I'm just going to add a tad bit of yellow to it. And for that, I'm just using the cadmium lemon, or just any yellow really. And obviously for the snap peas, I'm going to be using some purple or violet, whatever you have handy. And then finally for the actual florals, I think we'll go with the pinks and yellows, or yeah, pinks and yellows. So I'm going to possibly use the Quinacridone Rose by Daniel Smith for that, and I'll just show you how that goes. So we're ready to begin. I have my water, I have my paper towel ready, and we're going to start off with the number 4. And what I like to start off with is the center of the flowers. So we will start off with doing a nice bright Quinacridone Rose, which is more like a pinky mauve sort of color. So I'm just going to take some from my palette that I have pre-mixed, and I want the color to be nice and dense. I'm keeping my mop brush handy because you'll see how we're going to use that if you've seen the rose tutorials that I've done. And I think I did one, the ones I'm referencing are the English roses from a live that I did a couple of Sundays ago. You'll see these, I've focused more on these roses, so you'll see exactly what I mean. But yeah, this would be me doing them again. So we're going to start off with the center. And for the center, we're just going to do your regular C strokes. And you want to do them small and close to each other, kind of. And so that's why the number 4 is handy, because you kind of go in and you're just doing them in ever so slightly and lightly. And then once we have that, I'm just going to get my mop brush and just water on it. I'm just going to lightly create the C strokes again. And this will give you that nice illusion of petals around. And we don't want to use too much color, because I want this to almost look like it's a very light rose, kind of like the Eden rose, if you guys are familiar with your roses. So try and kind of let the pink go. And by go, I mean like leave a lot of white space in between as you're kind of blending things around. If you feel like there's too much water, just make sure you take your paper towel and kind of dab in the areas where you feel like there's too much water. If you want to highlight your petals on the outside, just take your number 4 and add a couple of strokes. And if you feel like the strokes get on too thick or too dark, then you just kind of go in with your mop brush, just take off all the water and kind of just lightly play around with smudging the color, and then kind of let it dry. So I'm going to leave that as is for now. And I just want to touch a little bit of water in the center. And actually, before I move on from this rose, while it is still nice and damp, I'm going to take a little bit of green, any kind of light green that you have hanging around somewhere, just a tad amount of it on your brush, and just add it to the edges. Because these roses have like a nice greeny kind of fade to it sometimes. And I like how that transitions nicely into making it look two-dimensional almost. So most of you know I love my two-dimensional looks and feels. So I'm just adding some in the center ever so lightly. And if you want, you can actually just make it a yellow even. It doesn't have to be a light green. There we go. So I'm just going to leave it at that. And then we'll do another floral on this side over here before we kind of branch off into the other ones. And for this one, we'll do a yellow centered bloom. I'm thinking a kind of a peony perhaps. So for this, I'll just use not exactly a perfect yellow, like not a cadmium yellow, but more of an orangey yellow, so like a mango color almost. And I believe if you're using the St. Petersburg, that would be the equivalent of golden. So just taking some on here, and I am going to have the flower face this direction. So for that, I'm just going to lightly add some quick lines, very loose lines using the number 4. And then, so these lines are in the background, and then for the foreground of the center, we're kind of doing these light dots because the direction you're looking at it is, you're giving it a little bit of perspective, even though these are like loosey florals. So I hope that kind of makes sense to some of you, or most of you, as I'm explaining. And now, since we have this nice bright orangey going on, if you want to go ahead and add some brown, I'm leaving white in the middle, by the way, just FYI. Add a little bit of brown. If you have like a nice dark brown happening somewhere, just using the same brush, just get some of the brown and just add a little bit of dots here and there, because the center normally has like some dark areas as well, so this kind of helps reflect that. So very sporadic. All right, and now once that's done, I'm just going to go ahead and use my number 8. And for this, I think I will use a nice, I want to say, let's use a, what color should we use? Let's use a light coral orange, even though I know the center is very orangey as it is, but perhaps like a nice mix with orange and yellow would give it a similar look. But yeah, let's do that. So I have a very light amount on here, and I've mixed a little bit of orange with yellow, and I'm just spreading the color down. But as I'm spreading it down, I am not touching the whole, I'm not bringing all of it down to touch the center. I'm leaving white spaces. So for instance, if you wanted to start from the center and going out, you can kind of do it like this. But you want to bring the color down to the center always. And then use, when you're going back to your palette, just kind of get different variations of the orange. And by different variations, I mean add a little extra yellow or add a little extra of the orange that you're doing, and this will give you different variations in the color. So as you're doing your petals, you'll see the colors kind of juxtaposing, but they kind of tie in together. So clearly I've added a little too much orange here, but it'll somehow work out in the end. So just as you're laying it down, just make sure you leave a lot of white space as well, and you should be good. So for this side, I'm going to create something that's kind of almost like a C curve, and this is because we're looking at the floral this way, and you kind of don't see much of the leaf, or sorry, the petal up on this end. So leave it very loose and open-ended, your strokes, I mean. So adding some more around the edges, and I'm just going to add a tad bit more yellow to this here, and I'm just adding a couple of dots here and there, You want to just keep it as open-ended as you can. Just keep telling yourself, leave as much white space as possible. And very loosely tack on the colors around this little center that we've created. And seeing that it's still kind of damp, I'm taking a little bit of my brown and I'm going to add it to the edges to give it a little more of a dark to light feel and kind of separate the center from the petals itself. So also taking advantage of the fact that some of these are still damp, so it's giving you a nice blend in color as you go around. So now that this is done, I'm just going to do one last thing, which is just taking the brush with just water on it, there's no color, and I want to swipe off some of the color lightly because I don't want all these areas to be as dark. And whatever color I have on here, I'm just going to use it to kind of add hints of petals, but leaving a lot of white space. So it looks like a nice full floral that you have, but you don't really see all the petals. I hope that makes sense. And then we're just going to kind of leave this as is. And now this is what we have, which I kind of really like. So I'm just adding some here because once you kind of turn it in the direction that you know you want it to be or how you're supposed to look at it, you might decide, oh, let me touch it up here and there. So this is what I'm doing right now. And I like ending things off in like little dots, especially for the loose paintings, because they just add something nice to the entire finished product. So now that we've done the main, it is time to kind of tackle the green. So as I was saying, we're going to be using like a nice umber color, and for most of these leaves I think we're going to use the number 4 because it's tiny, and I have 2 areas where there are buds, so why don't we tackle the buds, the budded areas first with the green, and then we can kind of go off into the others. So I'm using my umber again directly from the palette or the pad, and I'm going to lightly just make sure I don't put my hand over the damp area. I'm going to add, it's too light, I need more. I'm going to add a nice green line, stem, and then I'm just adding the bottom portion, and I don't want to color it all in, so again I'm leaving like white space. And now once I have that, I'm just going to go back with my number 8, and any of the color that you already have, the yellow, yellow or the pink, just kind of take it and add some on there. And once you have that, see, this is where I'm going to use the number 8, which I said I might use. So I'm just getting some water and I'm going to paint the other area, the other half of this bud. And this will just have the pink kind of blend in nicely without it looking like a flat lay of color. So that's my main reason for doing that. And then some of the green is also blending in, not as nicely as I thought it would, but we'll do the other ones and you'll see how you can achieve that nice effect. So I'm just dabbing a little bit excess water that was on my brush, and I have some pink on here, so I'm going to dab some here to kind of have it flow around a little bit so that it looks like a nice bud. So the next one, for this one, I'm going to add the water first. It has some pink on here already, and I'm lightly touching some of the green areas to kind of get the green seeping into the pink. And then I'm going to go in and just add some pink at the tip this time, and maybe some at the bottom. And then just let it kind of flow around and do its thing. If you feel like the flow isn't as great, remember what I said, you can always just take your brush, just wash off all the color, wipe it on your paper towel so there isn't too much water, and just kind of swipe down to take off any excess color. And then you can always ultimately take your paper towel and just dab. And that will also do the trick. Alright, and lastly, I also said I kind of like to do the whole adding of little dots here and there, so that's indicative of florals in the background or what have you. So I just want to have a blend of the yellow, although it's all turning out to be pink. Just going to get a blend of the yellow that I had previously. Where is that? Okay, here it is. I'm just going to add some very lightly. And then I'm just going to leave it at that. Alright, so now next is we're going back to our green, and we're going to continue down to do another leaf kind of coming out of this one. And if you can touch some of the damp areas to kind of get a flow in, do it, because it'll be a nice effect. So now I'm just kind of drawing in my leaf, and I'm using, first I went in with a light green, and then I kind of went in and added more green to the brush to get a nice dark color. And you want the dark always to start from the bottom of the leaf. So the leaf is always starting from a dark to light kind of rendition. So like that, and then you can kind of from the tip kind of extend, and then if you want to have it go down this way, you just kind of turn it around and start from the tip of the leaf going back down, and leave some white space in between, because that always kind of adds something really nice to the whole loosey effect. And there you have your loose leaves. And let's see, just because it looks so drawn out here, what I want to do is just add some loosey, very light extensions. So I'm just going to do that right now and kind of just draw in some leaves. But see how light they are. So these will be almost like in the background. You don't quite really see them, but they're there. And I touch this one to this leaf, so it's kind of extending some more. So you have that nice flow of color happening. So there we go. And then I'm just going to do one here, touching this orange. And this is how you get that faded look, when you kind of have some damp elements to the side, but then you just go in with water and you kind of create a shape, and it like the color runs with the shape that you have, and then that's how you get those nice dreamy looking leaves or florals in the background that you see a lot of paintings that they have. So try it out and kind of give it your own flair. So we'll stop fidgeting with that area and kind of continue with the rest. So moving on, we're going to use the same umber green that I have. I'm adding a little bit of my yellow to it this time. And I'm getting like a nice young green. And for this, we're going to just lightly use it on these leaves right here. So I've drawn it all out already. And as I color it in, you'll kind of see what they look like. So they're just kind of, they almost kind of look like ferns, but I feel like they give like a really nice texture. They're not quite ferns. They're a lot simpler than ferns, but it's the same idea. So once I have my color laid in, I'm going to go and get a darker green, or you can just get the actual green itself that we've been using and just kind of go in the center and add the stem and just highlight certain centers of the leaf so that the color flows nicely. And there you go. Then you have a nice kind of two-dimensional leaf. So going back to get the original color, let's do all the leaves that are kind of like this, and then we can circle back to other things. So here's another one. So we're going back with the light color and we're going to paint in the leaves, and as soon as we paint them very lightly, you don't want to like leave as much white space as you can, just keep it open-ended, like nice strokes, right? Then go back, get a dark green on the tip of your brush and start off on the center and just take advantage of the damp leaves and add your little dots and kind of swish some color around if you can. And remember the little dots that I like? Try and do those. They're fun. But don't overdo the dots. Sometimes I overdo the dots and then I'm like, oh, it doesn't look as great. So yeah. Okay, so I'm just gonna leave it at that because sometimes it gets out of hand and then I don't like it and not pleased. Alright, so leaving it at this. So now once we have this, let's see, are there any other, oh, there's one right here, so I'm going to do that there. So going back into the umber green, mixing it with a little bit of yellow to get this nice kind of light green. We're using the light green first to draw in or paint in the stem and get that leaf in, get the other leaves in, and leave white space in between. You don't have to color the whole leaf down. It's totally fine. And once you have that in, then go get some nice bright umber green on the tip of your brush. Go back to the center and just highlight certain areas by just touching the tip of your brush while it's still damp. And you see how it gives you that nice run of color. That's what dreams are made of. Watercolor dreams anyways. I love it. So yeah, so I like this highlight so much better than how it turned out here, but it might just dry up and look exactly like these, so you never know. Let's see how it happens and flows along. And moving on, we're gonna try and do all the leaves right now. So here's another one. These leaves can be the darker green if you wish. So we're literally just drawing them in and pressing your brush down and kind of letting it go. Again, pressing it down and kind of just flicking your wrist, letting it go. There you go. And so you have that nice, depending on how you apply pressure from your brush, you can see some areas are dark, some are light. Yeah, again, you can always go back in, taking a slightly different green and kind of highlight the areas. So if you want to highlight the center, just like we've been doing previously, to give it some nice two-dimensional look. You can even try adding in some of your dark blue, and I believe like an azure, which is like a darker shade of blue, I think, yeah. And just kind of add it certain areas while it's still damp to have it just flow in nicely, and just experiment and see what kind of results you get. Just make sure that it's not too much of blue, it's a very light amount of blue to kind of blend in. That's all we're kind of doing. We don't want it to overpower the green because we want to still keep with that nice green look that we have going on. And moving on to other ones, we'll keep the snap peas for last. Let's do this one right here. And so just kind of lightly adding in the green stem. And then using the same with a bit of yellow, but mainly more green, because we want it to be slightly darker than the other ones. Just kind of adding, just want to make sure I have enough color on my brush first. There we go. So, all right guys, sorry, it looks like it got interrupted and I just quickly checked and we are upside down. So I'm just gonna make sure that we are not upside down. There we go. Sorry about that. I'm not sure why it got interrupted, but it's a good thing I had my screen up, so I was able to kind of stop right where we ended off. So, okay, carrying on. We're doing these right here, and I had actually laid down color, but it must have dried up by now. But let's just see how that works out. So I have some of the yellow from the previous floral that we did right there. So I'm just going to add some on here and over here. And if you feel like it's too much yellow, just remember what I said to do, kind of just dab it off. I'm also going to add a hint of the pink mixed with the yellow. Ever so lightly. And then just dabbing off some excess color. Oh, and I kind of like that I can give it some interesting rough edges using my paper towel dabs. So that might work. Okay, so I like how light and loose that is, so we're just going to keep it that way for now. And now we will tackle the snap peas. So snap peas, again, we're doing a nice light green. And for this, you can just take one of your light greens and mix it with yellow to get like that nice yellowy green, or just keep on using the same green we've been using. I think that works too. And we're just going to start going across over the sketches that I've made here. So I am just going down. And then it has that lovely curl at the end. So that's why you need your number 4 to kind of create these, because you need that nice tip. So it's nice and fine, so you can get that nice curl. And then it has those nice broad leaves that kind of curl out. I'm just taking a tad bit of darker green to kind of add the green to certain areas to like highlight. And then same thing on here. For this leaf right here, we're doing the same thing. Once you learn how to do the leaves by just doing a light flick, they are so satisfying to do, because it's just really nice to watch it kind of get into formation almost. So once we've done that, we're continuing on to do the rest of it. And for that, we're kind of going along creating little bud-like shapes to show the florals. And then the tip of it is green. It has like some green buds. We're kind of just going to leave that open-ended. Try and keep it as damp as you can, so that you can go in with the darker green and have it just kind of nicely flare out. as I was saying earlier. And now once we've done that, we can do the actual florals. And for that, I'm mixing my violet. And I'm going to mix that violet with the pink that I had for the rose. So I'm getting more of a jewel tone, wine kind of color. But I want it to be super light, so I'm just going to make sure I put a layer of water, a wash of water down first. And I'm just doing very organic shape. So once I dip the color on here and it flares out, you'll see exactly the shape that I'm kind of going for here. So it's very loose and kind of like a butterfly almost, or almost like a cup. Think about it like that. So we're just doing very light renditions of that to form these little snap pea florals. So just like that. Let's do another one, and for that, if you can just take off as much of the water as you can and just take the color down to the tip of the stem. And then if you want to go in and add a slight flare of color just there, so I took some of the pink and I'm just going to touch it at the bottom there and give it like two-tone, as you guys like probably heard me say this a million times, two-tone. And now once I have that, I would like to see if I can get like a nice mix of green happening with the purple. So I'm just adding some green to the base of the floral, and that's good enough for me. I'm going to add some at the top here and do the exact same thing I've been doing for the other florals here. So adding that nice color onto like a cup-like shape, leaving some white space, just trying to keep it open-ended so it's not too much detail to your flower, but you can kind of tell what it is, and pushing the color down towards the stem always. And there we go, we have our nice little light rendition of snap peas. I see that I have one more thing of leaves right here, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that here. And I'm just adding in some dark green. Or you could just leave it light. It's up to you, really. And just like we did light leaves over here, I'll kind of do some on this side as well so that they're kind of fading off and looking very light, so like that. So just doing, and just kind of leaving it off that way. I'll just do some actually over here as well, just to, so it doesn't look so white here and then you have all these leaves coming out or going out this way. There we go. Just, and now I can leave that that way. And then last and final, we have this at the very bottom, and then we are done. So I'm just going to quickly get more of that green and do it again so you can see me do it one last time. So I'm getting my stem in first. I mean, I'm gonna mix some more color first. Okay, getting my stem in first, ending off with a nice curl, And there's a nice leaf here, and then there's another one here. And then we're doing a leaf, extension of a leaf over here as well. And you want to push the color back, or you can add some darker shades of green to give it a nice two-tone at the edges, and just blend it in. And then we're doing another curl, ever so lightly. There we go. So we've done those. And then we have the last few florals to do for the snap peas. Like these don't even, like you don't even have to show them connect at this stage, I guess. Just if you want to. So I'm just adding light strokes to this one here. And over here as well. And then I'm just going to dab off some excess color or water, because I want these to be very, very light. So I've touched some of the green and it's giving like a really nice blend into the purple. Same thing over here. I'm doing exactly like I said I would do. Adding some loose color strokes, touching some of the green, leaving some white space in there, leaving some dots as well to kind of make it look loose. And there we go. And we are done. So I hope you guys like this. I'm just going to quickly read the comments to see if anyone had any questions or anything at all. Oh, windy with the Sahara sandstorm. Okay, I hope it isn't too bad. Jose to Spain. Okay, hi. Susan from Northern Indiana. Hello. And Debbie saying hi, Susan. That's so sweet. I love it when you guys interact online. That's so cool. Hi from Germany. Hi, Martina. Hi, Shaheen. Thank you so much. Glad you think it is beautiful and you liked it. Who else is saying something? Colleen. Love the colors. Thanks, Colleen. And Artnak, hey. Brittany says beautiful. I joined late, but I can't wait to try that rose. Thank you so much, Brittany, and everyone else for joining in. I really, really hope you guys had a good time watching this, and you've learned lots of new things. Let me know if you guys have any questions at all or comments. I love hearing from you guys, so please feel free. So once you guys do this, I would love it, absolutely love it, if you could send me a picture of what you do on Instagram or on Facebook. My, I guess my handles are below in the description, so please feel free to follow me there and send me your stuff. I would love to see it, and I love sharing it if I can. Some of you have private accounts, so I cannot share it on my stories, but if you don't, I love sharing the work that you guys put out. And what else? Oh, if you really like this, please subscribe. Please feel free to also share in your social media circles, because it really helps my channel and it helps me to kind of put out some awesome work for you guys. So as always, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining me every Sunday, most of you. And I hope you guys have a lovely Sunday. We will chat soon. Bye, guys.